thought it was just not going to start because it kind of hung there in the atmosphere, as it were, which may be the result of the fact that we just had a minor power outage. It was like 2 seconds, but it was enough to knock some stuff out. The clocks and most of the equipment didn't get affected, but Wi-Fi went out, so it had to reboot itself, and maybe it's a result of that. But anyway, okay, so the quote of the day I'm going to use today is from Michael Jordan. I'm not sure which Michael Jordan it is, the actor, the former basketball player, but it's Michael Jordan. I rather think it's the basketball player, but I'm not sure. You have to expect things of yourself before you can do them. You have to expect things of yourself before you can do them. It kind of makes sense, right? You know, if you don't expect things to happen, then there's a good chance things won't happen. So, and it sort of fits in with the reading from Rev Margaret Stortz. And she's called her reading for today, Consciousness Will Out. And the first quote is, of course, once again from Emerson's essays. This one's from, I think, Nature. It's on page 7 of that collection of essays. He says, we must in our own nature, or we must of ourselves, if you like, see the necessary reason for every fact and see how it could and must be. And that was on page 7. And Ernest Holmes says, as we bring ourselves to a greater vision, we induce a greater concept and thereby demonstrate more in our experience, right? So the more we understand how things come about, and the more we believe that, the more they're going to happen. And the reading will make it clear. That quote is from the Science of Mind textbook, page 282, kind of halfway into the book. It's a big book. And this is Reverend Margaret Stortz, who says, among other things, we are beings of consciousness. We have within us the mind of God, the capacity to take thought and shape it to our own lights, our own needs and desires, if you like. All this becomes our special take on what we call consciousness. We can perfectly or imperfectly understand our relationship to God, and our lives will unfold accordingly. Ernest Holmes, in a lighter moment, wrote that we do not gather roses from thistles. Of course, we might say, but often we're not considering that our thistle-like thoughts will not produce a sweet-smelling, rose-like atmosphere. He says our thoughts are reproduced in our lives according to the law of cause and effect, which follows this adage. And I'm going to paraphrase here. As a person thinketh, so are they. And she says, knowing this, the wise person pays attention, what? To the general flow of their thoughts. Are they benevolent? Do I expect the best of myself and others? Do I calm myself in contemplation and meditation? Why? So that I can think clearly. It is worthwhile minding our minds so that we don't get off track and off center. Eventually, we keep no secrets. What goes on within us will itself come about and reveal it. What goes on within us, I see. Let's put it this way. What goes on within us will itself be revealed in the course of our lives. So in other words, our thoughts are eventually going to come out and produce results, whatever they are. She said, scary thought perhaps, but it may remind us that our consciousness is always coloring our lives with either health or sickness, either joy or unhappiness, either success or failure. We hold the key to our own well-being. So what do I make of all this? Hang on a second. Let me just get rid of all this junk. Well, the basic concept of New Thought and lots of other related philosophies is that there is one power that brought everything into existence, and that there's one mind that operates in and through and as everything. And that in a sense, we don't have separate minds. Rather, we are all individually using the mind of God to produce results in our lives. And then she goes on to say that we got to be careful about what we think. And really, the key here is to be aware of our thoughts. Why do we do meditation? Why do we do spiritual mind treatment? Why do we do quiet time? So that we can start to recognize where our thoughts really are. Because we're creatures of habit. And our thought patterns really are no less habit. So we have to become aware of what those thought patterns are. And that's what produces the results. So even at an unconscious level, results are being produced. But it isn't entirely that simple, because if the human mind really contains all of our experiences, and that human mind is in the universal mind, then all those uses of the mind of God are producing results, and they have to somehow resolve themselves. So while it's spiritual malpractice to tell people, hey, you brought this on yourself by the way you think, or your past thought patterns, which are now ingrained in your mind at the subconscious level, they're bringing all this crud into your life and it's your fault. No, we don't do that. We tell people, change your thinking, change your life, which is the subject of the class I'm going to start teaching next week. And literally, when you become aware of what you're thinking, and if it's not something good or going to produce decent results, then you start to change it. And you can use affirmations to do this. In fact, one way to change it is to use great affirmations. So you replace all the crud that's in there with good stuff. And then as that settles in more and more, you start producing results which are related to the good stuff, to the affirmations, and not to other stuff that's gone on before. But you never blame other people, and you never blame yourself. You acknowledge the fact, hey, all this stuff's been going on. I'm sure it's been responsible for a lot of stuff. I just learned a lesson, and I am going to change the way I think and feel, and I am going to change my results. I'm going to change results for those who ask me to pray for them as well, because it's all going on in my consciousness, which is a part of the mind of God. So those are my explanations for what's going on. As every day, she says, the divine good fulfills me, always has, always will, and I access it every day. I access the mind of God every day, if you like. I'm aware that my consciousness of self unfolds each day. I'm aware that my consciousness of self unfolds every day, if you like. My thoughts are healthy and loving. This is a really good one. It's a really good affirmation. My thoughts are healthy and loving. I think that's a good one for all of us to post somewhere. My thoughts are healthy and loving. So that's it for me for today. You get 3 things tomorrow from Creative Life Spiritual Center. You got a 9:15 a.m.-ish reading from Reverend Lisa Ryan. You get a meditation sometime during the day tomorrow from Danielle Mercadal, one of our practitioners. And then you'll get me back again tomorrow, hopefully at 5 o'clock. I don't see any business things getting in the way of 5 o'clock tomorrow as it did today. So my knowingness for everyone is that we are aware of our thoughts, we are aware of our feelings, and I'm knowing for each and every one that they have the ability and the power to change those feelings for the good, those thoughts for the good, when they're not supportive of life. And I release this word into that same divine mind, knowing that it is good and done, and so it is.